Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for not going on after the show. After the game, not really. I was sauced, and I was not doing a post game show last night. We were at the game. I had too much to drink, and I didn't see anything in the sports world. Say what?
You're just coming out and admit no sugar coating.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, whatever. I mean,
like,
what am I gonna
go to the pod? But I was too hammered.
Yeah, I mean, like, what am I gonna get arrested for drinking at Florida, Georgia? I mean, come on.
Everybody understands and respects your decision.
Yeah, no doubt. It would have not been good. I would have had X's and O's on my eyes how we went on with the pod last night. Graham, we go to the game. We get tickets last minute. You know, it's all about who you know in the world. Yep. And you text me at 1:30 and you're like, hey, I got tickets. Do you want to go? I'm like, yes or yes. That answer's yes. And so we go to the game, and man, first off, before we get into the game, everything that happened and all that, it felt good to be talking about the game, being at the game, and not talking about this damn coaching controversy between, you know, Napier leaving and talking about Lane Kiffin and who's this. It felt good to be at the game. And granted, it's going to be the last one that Florida Georgia is going to be in Jacksonville for a couple of years.
Yeah, man, it did feel good. First of all, before we really dive into it, immaculate weather yesterday in Jacksonville, Florida. Oh my goodness, like 69, 70 degrees. Basically the whole game, not a cloud in the sky. Good football game. Obviously wish the Gators would have won, but like objectively speaking, from 10,000 feet, just as a football fan, like good, captivating football game, back and forth the whole time. Never really out of reach until the very end for either team. When you look at it from that perspective, Dylan, just as a fan of football, a fan of, you know, being in Jacksonville and Florida, Georgia, obviously you want the Gators to win, but it's tough to complain about the day that we got to have yesterday. Like, I feel like it's one of those days where you need to like look back and just appreciate for a second college football and early November and the world's largest outdoor cocktail party and what we have this time of year, because, you know, even with the Gators losing, Dylan, we'll fast forward to, you know, March or April when we haven't had football in months. We would kill for a day like we had yesterday. So,
oh my gosh,
you know, great tailgate, great day, just a fun day. Like you were able to go back at the end of the day and, you know, be like, I'm glad I was in the mix for that. I'm glad I was at the game. I'm glad I got to have one too many drinks the whole time. But just a good day overall. But yeah, in terms of the game, we'll get into it. I totally agree with you. First of all, it's really nice that we can actually just talk about a football game for once, and we're not going to have to spend the entire podcast on who the next coach is going to be. I'll tell you this, Billy Gonzalez coached that football game much better than Billy Napier would have.
Who would have thought? I mean,
we didn't, you know, for obvious reasons, like you just talked about, because it's not like I was sober all day either. But here's a few things I noticed. Dylan, on special teams, we had 11 guys on the field every single time.
We did.
That's a big step. We call that growth, right? I felt like on offense, Dylan, we called more than seemingly the same, like 4 plays. Like, I actually felt like, and we did talk about this a little bit on our way out of the stadium. The number one thing, obviously, Billy Gonzalez is an offensive guy. Like, I think the biggest reflection of him as a coach and, like, what changes you might see from what he does the rest of the way through what Napier did is what you're going to see offensively, not just play calling wise with Sean O'Hara calling plays, but also with like the formations and kind of just like generally speaking, like how they want to attack offense, like how much they want to run versus the pass, how much they're going to be in pistol versus more traditional spread, like 4 to 5 wide, and just how they want to mess with that. I think that drive where Georgia goes up 17-10 right at the half, Florida gets 3 and out, has to punt the ball. Georgia gets the ball, go right down the field and score. It's 17-10. With Florida-Georgia games as of late, where Georgia's obviously had Florida's number and beaten Florida by two or three scores most of the time, that was the point, right? That was the point where you look at each other and you're like, yep, this is when belt starts coming to ass, right? You felt it. You're like, okay, Georgia just got that big kind of body blow touchdown. They just, like, for the boxing metaphor, they just hit us right in the ribs. And, like, the chances that we're going to get back up, stand tall, and hit right back is just kind of hard to see happening. The very next drive, Lagway scrambles around, makes a couple plays. Jaden Baugh makes a play. Sturdivant makes a play. Eugene Wilson makes a play. They take 2 shots down the field where they get somebody open and Georgia gets a pass interference call because Georgia was beat twice. And now all of a sudden, number 13 is in the end zone and you got a tie ball game. And it's midway through the third quarter. It's anybody's game. I'm sorry, but we watched 3.5 years of Billy Napier, Dylan. You correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I find it incredibly hard to believe if Billy Napier is still on that sideline, they go down the field and score on that drive.
Well, no, and it wasn't just that they scored on that drive. It takes 6, 7 minutes off the clock.
Yeah,
that was the more impressive thing.
They stayed on and they needed that. That's a really good point because they needed that not just for the points, but they needed to give their defense a second to collect themselves on the sideline. You know, a 3 and out right away. I mean, effectively, if you think about it, because Florida got a 3 and out right away, effectively Georgia got the ball to start both halves, basically, right? Because if you go 3 and out and punt, I mean, that's pretty much a turnover, right, for all intents and purposes. You may as well just kick that off to Georgia to start the half. So the defense, who has played well most of the year, has been the one side of the ball Florida can hang its hat on most of the year, has been the only reason that they've been competitive in any games they've been competitive in. That side of the ball was teetering. That side of the ball needed something. They needed some time on the sideline to connect with Ryan Roberts and connect with their position coaches and figure something else out because Georgia was starting to really roll on them. And sure enough, the offense gives just what the doctor ordered. To your point, takes a ton of time off the clock, gets first down after first down after first down, stays on the field, keeps moving the ball, gets a little bit of mojo, gets a little bit of rhythm. And now our defense can have some confidence to go back on the field and try to make some plays. I agree. That's a really good point on taking the time off the clock. That was a huge, huge drive in a variety of ways.
Yeah, and not only that, but you shorten the game. Florida gets the ball with 11 minutes in the third quarter, and Georgia didn't get the ball back with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Like, that's what good football teams do. Florida's not a good football team, but that's what I'm saying. That's what good football teams do. I mean, Florida was up against it. Yeah, well, and Florida was up against it, man. We knew what kind of game you were going to have. I mean, no Vernell Brown, no Aiden Mizell. The secondary's banged up. The defense once again plays their balls off again.
Yep.
What did you say? I didn't catch what you said there.
Dallas Wilson got hurt in the game as well.
Yeah, he only had 1 catch in the limited time he had, and we all knew, going into the week, Billy Gonzalez said, yeah, Trey Wilson, he's going to get a lot of targets, and sure enough, he had like 9 catches. He had 121 yards, man. When was the last time Eugene Wilson had 100 yards receiving in a game?
I know. You know, it was so refreshing too, and we talked about this so many times, back to the Billy Napier point, and the offense actually calling more than the same, like, 4 plays. That was the first time since Graham Mertz in 2023 was the quarterback that you actually saw Trey Wilson used as a real receiver. Like, he wasn't just getting the ball off of screens and jet sweeps and gadget stuff. Like, that his first touchdown, or his only touchdown, but the first touchdown for the Gators of the game was him as a receiver taking off down the field. And it was kind of a broken play, but the point is he's 50 yards down the field, right? He's not just another check down option, basically, or in the flat or something like that. Like, Eugene Wilson can run routes, man. He can catch the ball. He can run crossers. Like, he's not a big body possession receiver, no, but there's no reason you shouldn't use him like a guy that can run pretty much the majority of the route tree. Now, look, take that with a grain of salt, of course. Like you just said, Vernell Brown III was not in the game. If Vernell Brown III plays, highly, highly doubt Eugene Wilson gets 100+ receiving yards. But the point remains that, like, this dude can do some things, man. Like, this dude can really give you a lot in the offense and play within the flow of the offense, right? Like, you don't have to jack up your play calling and jack up your rhythm just to call gadget stuff to try to get number 3 involved. You can have him as a legitimate part of the offense and have him be a contributor. Georgia didn't have much of an answer for him the whole game. I mean, he had Georgia DBs in hell. Like, it was really nice to see that, and I hope we see more of the same.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the nitty gritty. What everybody was talking about after the game, the catch, no catch. It was ruled no catch on the field. I thought it was a catch when you look at the review, but Graham, you and I have watched enough football to know that when you have a very close call like that, whatever is usually called on the field is going to stay. Regardless of unless it is clear in the review that you can overturn it. That was the case. They did not, and they call it a no catch. I mean, it's a tough throw for we have to throw the ball, 45, 50 yards off his left foot. Yes, he should have, got it to him somehow, some way. I mean, the Georgia defense was nowhere near his vicinity, but J. Michael Sturdivant tried to come back to the ball. His foot slips, and he kind of has to make that acrobatic throw. If not, his momentum probably takes him through the ball, and he's able to get under it. And then you got a different game there. But that's not the case. And then Georgia gets the first down, and that's your game. Dude, I didn't think you told me this before we went on. I didn't think Lagway had a bad game. Now, I don't spend my time on the internet and Twitter. Like, after the game, I was watching a little bit of the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. I got home. I watched the World Series. I went to sleep. And then I saw a tweet. I'm sure some people, I'm sure some people have seen it, where Lagway was smiling, taking pictures with Georgia players and coaches after the game. I don't care. Like, that's not, I mean, like, whatever. This is the culture of kids now. It's not a big deal. This isn't like Dan Mullen doing what he did a couple of years ago. But it's I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was a catch, but that we know how football is. If it's a close call like that and it's incomplete, that's just what it's going to be.
Yeah, I thought it was a catch as well, but yeah, to your point, once they called it incomplete on the field, and then we were at the game, they're doing the reviews, and pretty much the reviews and the angles we saw was the same that people watching it on TV saw. I felt like his hands were underneath that ball, and I felt like there was not one angle that showed the ball hitting the ground. That said, I agree with you that I don't think there was an angle that made it clear and obvious enough that was going to cause the refs to pull the trigger. I kind of felt like the whole time, I'm like, I believe, just like you're saying, like, I believe this is a catch, but it's hard for me to believe they're going to overturn this. That said, I know people were upset about Lagway underthrowing the ball, and I get it. But to your point, Dylan, a second ago, he's a right-handed quarterback rolling to his left, throwing it off one foot, and it was essentially a 50-yard throw. He pretty much threw it. I wanted to rewatch the play before we went on so I could remember this clearly. It was basically from Florida's 24-yard line to Georgia's 24-yard line was basically where the throw went. So it's easy for all of us to sit here and be like, well, why'd you underthrow that? It's like, it isn't like it's a 20-yard throw that he underthrew, right? That was a difficult throw to make. That wasn't like a point. I know J. Michael Sturdivant was open. Just because a receiver's open doesn't mean it's an easy throw. So I'll defend Lagway a little bit in that respect, that people are kind of acting like this is a point blank, just pitch and catch type of throw, and that's not really true. I know we're used to Lagway being able to throw these deep balls on a rope. So I get why we're kind of trained to see him throw those better, but I don't know. I didn't feel like it's not like he missed a layup there. You know what I mean? Is my feeling on that. I do think he caught the ball, but we just went through that. Florida, I will say there were two, I guess, controversial calls in the game that both went against Florida's way, between that catch and it's escaped my mind. What was the Gunnar Stockton fumble, not fumble, in the first half.
That was like the final play in the first half.
Yeah, I that one was really close too. That one was called a fumble on the field, but Dylan, we also kind of know the context of those. Like, they call it a fumble on the field on purpose so they can let the play continue out. So if someone were to pick up a fumble recovery, return it, we kind of know that whole thing there. It's the Miles Jack wasn't down rule kind of thing. So we kind of also know that, like, that's not the same as a normal, like, what the call and sticking with the call in the field. We know that that's more of a coin flip when they look at it, and they're going to be more willing to overturn that. That one I felt like was really close too. I tend to think if you get one missed controversial call, if it's kind of a 50-50, like, that sucks, but you got to suck it up. If you get two, you might have a little bit more of a right to complain. I don't think I could go as far and say as Florida got, like, hosed by the refs. I don't really think that happened. I just think they were kind of on the short end of the stick for two calls. Florida also got away with a drive earlier. They got away with an offside, so they called a false start on Georgia. Georgia didn't false start. So that's not quite as big as those other two, but, like, just to point out, like, Florida did get away with a call as well. And I'm sure there was some other holdings or whatever that you could point out. You know how those go. All that said, to me, Dylan, we talked about this as well, leaving the stadium. Where Florida lost the football game was the 4th and 2, when you had an opportunity to go up 2 scores and you go for it, run it up the middle, don't get it. That's where you lost the game, because it's 20-17 at that point. You go for it on 4th in Georgia's territory. I endorse going for it on 4th. That was the right call to go for it on 4th. I think going up 6 versus 3 when Georgia's got plenty of time doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of a difference there. I endorse going for it on 4th. I didn't love the play call. I think when it's 4th and a pretty long 2, and you know Georgia's D-line is hunkering down in the very middle of that line, I would have rather probably run some type of play action, some type of rollout, get Lagway moving, move the pocket a little bit. And Lagway ran pretty well yesterday, so I would have liked to see him with maybe some type of, like, flood concept or something like that with him rolling. Give him 2 to 3 options to throw, and if not, give him an opportunity to make a play with his feet, only needing those 2 yards. Jaden Paul had been running the ball well and been running the ball well that drive. I think it was a little bit too predictable and a little bit too far that they had to go for that to be the play call. I would go for that 100 times out of 100, but I would have called a different play. What say you?
Yeah, I know. I would have probably thrown it, but I mean, it just sucks, man. I mean, like, the whole thing, man. Like, there was people multiple weeks, I work at the radio station at Tinton XL, and there are multiple people that a couple weeks ago, like, oh, Florida has no shot. I'm like, you clearly haven't seen Georgia play it. And this felt like an exact Georgia game they've seen all year, where they're not playing at their best. This happened against Tennessee and against Auburn, and somehow, some way, they get the ball in the 4th quarter and they put together a drive. They feel they win the game. And the thing that sucks the most about it is, Florida 1 had a shot right there to put them away, and Florida beat them in 2020, yes, but that wasn't full capacity stadium. The last time Florida beat Georgia in Jacksonville at a full capacity stadium was 2016.
Yeah.
That's a long ass time.
Dylan, that was our freshman year of college. We are 20.
Yes. Yeah, we graduated high school that year. That was like, we were 3-4 months removed from graduating high school, and we've been graduating college now for 5 years.
Yep.
It sucks, man. It's just one of those games where, Florida's had recent success against Tennessee, even though they've been terrible, and, against Florida State and, your rivals, LSU, has been, they haven't really had a lot of success against them, but Georgia's more of the rival against, more than LSU, and you've had no success against them really in the last 10 years.
Right now, if like of Florida's rivals, and Florida has a million rivals, being in the SEC and having the history we do, like, I mean, there's I mean, basically half your schedule you would consider a rivalry game, right? Between, well, I mean, teams you just said, like Georgia, Florida State, LSU, Tennessee,
Miami.
They've been playing Miami a lot more often lately, so you could put Miami. I mean, we just listed 5 games. So, I mean, that's almost half your schedule of like heated rivalry games, right? And that's not mentioning like Kentucky, who has kind of had Florida's number lately. I know Florida beat them last year, but I wouldn't put that game's obviously not in the same tier, but like Kentucky would consider Florida a football rivalry, I'm sure. But context within that matters. Like back when like Jim McElwain was the coach, for example, Jim McElwain had a winning record against Georgia. He was 2-1 against Georgia in his three Florida Georgia games, but Georgia wasn't Georgia yet. Once Georgia got to beat Georgia in 2017, they beat Jim McElwain 42-7. So like, you know, and Florida's streak of not being shut out was in serious danger in that game. I want to say DeAndre Goolsby, I think, scored late in that game too.
Jeez.
I know that's a name, right?
Wow.
So bad to not get Florida shut out, but back then Florida State was really rolling. Like Jimbo had them going.
Dalvin Cook
played Jameis, like the back end of Jameis's career at Florida State a few times. Like if you wanted to reach like serious heights and like make a college football playoff and go compete for a title, back then it was Florida State that was like the big dog that you needed to beat. Now it's Georgia, and if you expect to make a college football playoff, be competitive, find yourself in the semifinals, maybe in the championship game at some point, which I think we all have aspirations to do as Gator fans, that team in red and black in Jacksonville is who you got to beat. And it's, beating inferior opponents, inferior to Georgia, not inferior. Nobody's inferior to Florida right now, isn't going to get it done. Like, and that was kind of where Dan Mullen always lived, right? Dan Mullen would beat the teams he should beat, but he would never beat the teams he shouldn't beat. So that kind of put us in this weird gray area. The wheels fall off in 2021. He's fired. We know that the story there. And then obviously Billy Napier just was a complete and total unqualified buffoon for 3.5 years coaching this football team. So we're not going to get into the coaching search. We promise we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. But that said, I'm ready for a coach and a program that has legitimate expectations to win this game. And I think Florida, you could argue Florida should have won this game with an interim coach and a bunch of your best players injured and not playing. It just goes to show, Dylan, that you get a guy in here with a brain and a clear direction that is ready to kick some ass. I think Georgia's going to be in trouble if they get the right guy in here.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and we'll see what Florida does next month. I will say this, Phil. I mean, it was pretty evident that Florida is going to be better off without Napier these next 4 games. I mean, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State.
100%, Dylan. But before they got rid of Napier, I thought Florida State would be a dogfight and or that horrendous team up until, because Florida State's horrible, was going to beat us in the swamp. And then I thought the streak against Tennessee was as good as gone. Like we may as well just give Tennessee the win in the swamp right now with Napier. There was almost no shot they were going to win that game. Now I feel confident that between what do we got? Kentucky, at Ole Miss, and then Tennessee and Florida State at home, right? I mean, it's not crazy to think they could run the table with those.
No, I was about to say I would feel good about 3-1. Like, yeah. I feel like they could definitely.
Ole Miss is obviously the game that you're going to go in as a probably pretty significant underdog, and you probably would not expect to win. But look, man, would you be stunned if they beat Ole Miss?
No,
I wouldn't be either.
And yesterday they were battling with South Carolina. The game was pretty close, and then Ole Miss scored I think they scored a decent amount to pull away in the fourth quarter. But I mean, dude, this is college football, man. It was like last week, Ole Miss, they beat Oklahoma, and like everybody in the media was like, oh, Let me get the bracket. Let me get my Sharpie. Ole Miss is in the playoff. I'm like, yeah, let's just forget these 5 weeks because, upsets never happen in college football.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Got left the football to play.
Yeah, I mean, we already know the 12 teams are in the playoff. Like, what the hell are we talking about, man?
Listen, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home last year, and it was Kentucky. It ended up being Kentucky's only SEC win for the season. Like this, and that's not to dump on Ole Miss. That's to make the comment that I think you're trying to make as well. That like, dude, in this conference nowadays, as deep as it is, as many teams as are in the SEC now, and with the portal spreading the talent a lot thinner, dude, it is as week to week as the NFL now, man. Like, legitimately, anybody can beat anybody on any given week. I think over are the days of the 21-22 Georgia Bulldogs, where they just ran the table and just killed everybody, or the Nick Saban Alabama teams, where they just ran the table and killed everybody. I think kind of the main point you're making is like that don't really exist anymore. It ain't the same where the top 2 to 3 teams in this league are just going to mollywop everybody else they play, and then their schedule's going to come down to like 1 or 2 games where they're going to play another big dog and we see what happens. It ain't like that anymore. You got to go. I mean, that's part of why the playoff was expanded, because when you play in a tough league, Ohio State in the Big Ten is probably going to go undefeated, I guess. Is anybody else that's a serious contender?
Indiana. Indiana's going to go 12-0.
Okay, you're right. Indiana's undefeated, but Indiana, they got some ball games left too, man. Like there's a really good chance that a month from now, Indiana will not be undefeated. And even still, you're talking the Big Ten, which I would argue is a lesser league right now in the SEC, top to bottom. At the top, it's just as good, if not better. But I don't know that the depth is.
I wouldn't even agree with that. The Big Ten's got Ohio State, Indiana, and it's like Michigan, Illinois, 3 and 4, or Oregon 3, and then Michigan, Illinois 4 or 5. The SEC is like 6, 7 deep.
Well, the reason I say that, Dylan, is I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. That's why I don't know. Neutral field, everyone's healthy, every team plays their best game. I don't think anybody beats Ohio State. That's more so why it's really just Ohio State. Because in Indiana, if Indiana plays Georgia neutral field, if they play Alabama neutral field, if they play some of the better teams in the SEC on a neutral field, they can get beat by any given one of them, and maybe even most of them. Who knows? But anyways, beside the point, like, you're absolutely right. Like, we got a month left of ball, and I think anybody is insane if they're saying that they can predict what's going to happen in these next 4 weeks. I think with the conversation, what is it, November 2nd? I think the conversation we're having November 2nd and the conversation we have December 2nd are going to be very different depending on a lot of different things we see.
Yeah.
But we talked about this a few years ago as a more like 10,000-foot view of college football. And this goes back to the original point I made about like how much fun yesterday was and just getting to enjoy college football and great weather and being out in downtown Jacksonville for the cocktail party. Like, how awesome is this, bro? How awesome is it that every week in the SEC is just get your popcorn ready and you got no clue who's going to beat who?
Bro, like, just look at yesterday. You had Texas Vandy come down the wire. Like, Texas went up, spotted them 17-0. And then they almost find a way to come back. Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia yesterday.
We needed to mention, by the way, because we were talking about undefeated teams, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is maybe as good as anybody in the country.
I think they're the best team in the SEC.
I think they are too. And so that was getting to my point about the Big Ten, like at the top, just because I think neutral field, Ohio State, A&M, I would take Ohio State to win that football game. But A&M could absolutely win it. They're the one team that seems to be running the table. I mean, they play Georgia right now, neutral field score.
Yeah, I mean, even Alabama, like a couple weeks ago, they needed a touchdown and 2-point conversion at the very end of the game to beat South Carolina, or to tie South Carolina, and then eventually end up beating them a little bit later. I mean, it's a week-to-week sport. We got Kenny in the comments section saying, at least we have some depth with these injuries and still competitive. Yeah, I think Florida's going to beat Kentucky. We'll see what Ole Miss is like when that gets there. And then, when you play Tennessee and Florida State, I feel good right now that because you're at home against your rival. I feel good about these next couple weeks.
I do too. And to Kenny's point, I'm gonna go galaxy brain take on you, Dylan. Okay, you ready? I'm gonna take you down a crazy take path, and you gotta call me out on my bullshit if you think I'm wrong. Okay.
Hang on, let me get my pen here.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So to Kenny's point, got the wheels turning. Okay. I absolutely agree with Kenny, and I think Dylan does too, about how at least Florida has depth, right? It's clear they got good football players pretty much all over the field, right? Even without Vernell Brown III and with Dallas Wilson going down, you still had good receivers making plays. I think the offensive line is probably the biggest concern right now, top to bottom. But
there's a but coming. But what?
But there's clearly good players there. It's clear that they have not been well coached this season with the offensive line. And to me, it's more of a coaching thing as a unit. They haven't done well enough, less so like there's just certain players that are turnstiles, if you get what I'm saying. Defensively, I mean, even with all these DBs hurt, they still got dudes that are showing up and making plays, right? They still got guys playing. I mean, Bryce Thornton playing well. Castell, I don't know about him, but I still like Cormani McLean. I think there's good DBs across the field. There's good players is the point I'm trying to make, right? They are deep, and there's plenty of talent to believe that they could literally win the next 4 games that they got remaining on the schedule. The reason that this team is not good, the reason this is a bad football team, is because Billy Napier was not a good Saturday football coach. Billy Napier was not good at getting his guys prepared to play on Saturday and then waking up Saturday morning, getting to the field and kicking ass and taking names, do what needs to be done, right? That said, there's clearly good infrastructure here. There's clearly good players that want to be here, that have not quit. They are bought in. They're doing all the stuff they need to do. We were sick of hearing all that when Napier was still the coach because it wasn't a justification to keep losing football games. But now that he has been fired, as he should have been, rightfully so, is it possible, Dylan, that now we are able to appreciate what Billy Napier has done in terms of recruiting well and building a good infrastructure of good people and a good culture and being a nice guy and all the buzzwords we hated hearing? Because, again, it was not a justification to keep him. But I do think now there's a bit of a reflection that we can appreciate.
Bro, Sunday through Friday, he did everything good. He just couldn't do the Saturday stuff good. I mean,
I agree.
Clear.
But is that stupid to say? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
No, it's not. What you did, what he was able to do with the roster he's constructed, with the talent he's brought in, the only thing he didn't do well was like name a defensive coordinator last year. Like say, hey, this guy is a defensive coordinator. The only thing he didn't do well was run a offense on Saturday, have a good script, having 30 yards and a half against Miami. But it's like Matt Hayes was talking the other day, if you look at personnel and just look at it on paper, like Florida matches up with Georgia, and that's Napier. Like, that's the recruiting that he's done the last couple of years with high school and the portal. But it was just the Saturday stuff he couldn't get right.
Well, and the culture part matters too, I think. Like, I think that's important here. Like, it isn't just that they have a good roster, Dylan. It's the fact that with how many games they were losing with an interim coach, you've heard no rumblings about people,
dumping ship and leaving
and sitting so that they can just stay healthy to transfer. You've seen no like quit and guy, like you've seen the entire team with nothing on their minds other than just winning the football games that are left ahead of them. Right? And I do think that there's merit to that. Like, I do think that matters. I do think that is a positive sign moving forward, that when the new coach does come in, you have a good shot of retaining a lot of this talent that is currently on the roster. I don't foresee because a lot of times nowadays, especially with the way the portal works, when one coach is fired and then a new coach comes in, oftentimes that first year, it's like North Carolina's got right now going on with Belichick. Like there was a complete mass exodus of the team after Mac Brown left, and then they replaced the whole thing with more portal guys, right? So you have just this kind of just collection of dudes that have never played together. They don't know each other. They're coming from every which school. They left their last school for whatever reason. In that first year or two, while you're trying to build it, everything's just kind of a mess. I believe that a lot of these guys are going to stick with it. Probably not everybody. They're not going to keep everyone, I don't believe. As well as Eugene Wilson played yesterday, it's probably hard for me to believe he sticks around next year, especially if Vernell Brown and Dallas Wilson stick around. That said, I think they're going to be able to keep a really good, nice nucleus of players, and we'll be able to appreciate the good that Billy Napier did without having to deal with 12 people on special teams and having no idea how to use timeouts and that sort of thing. So that was my Galaxy brain take.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't think that's crazy. I think most people would agree with that. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the next coach is going to have every resource that and every anything that that they've wanted in the past that Florida coaches haven't had, that the next coach is going to have. Napier had that opportunity, it didn't work out, and now it's going to the next coach is going to have that. So Graham, have a good Sunday.
Yes, sir.
I've never felt more alive on the Sunday morning after a Florida-Georgia game. Sucks we lost again. It is so infuriating. But it is what it is. You move on to next week. You play Kentucky. What's the spread for the Kentucky game? Can I get a spread?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
What give me a guess.
Florida at Kentucky.
I'll say Florida -6.
I'll say Florida -3.5.
What time is the game?
I don't know.
We don't know nothing about nothing. We just do this podcast. Oh, here we go. Oh my God, a 7:30 kick. Damn it, man. Bro, these prime time games. Here's a conspiracy theory for you. Florida sucked in every prime time game. They played well at 3:30.
That's right.
Florida's a 3.5 points favorite.
It's 3.5, so I was right.
Yeah. Over under.
That's why I don't know the spread, because I just guessed it. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. You should be a bookie. I mean, what could go wrong?
That's right.
So, all right. That's all I got. We'll talk next week. And basketball starts Monday.
I was gonna say we got hoops coming up, bro. We got hoops to talk soon.
Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
I think it's
the 4th?
I think it's Monday.
Whatever the hell it is.
We got Arizona Monday, and then UNF Thursday night in the O-Dome.
In Gainesville?
Yes, sir. Gainesville, Florida.
Yeah, Gainesville, Florida. Yeah, I was thinking, you said the O-Dome, and I was thinking downtown Jacksonville Arena when you said UNF. I'm like, no, that's not right.
Nah.
Yeah. Basketball season's here, but I'll dabble a little bit in basketball. I mean, I do have this hoodie that I just got, this merch.
That's right. Gator boys stay hot.
Gator boys stay hot. All right, we'll see y'all next week.
And the boys are ready to cook.